Welcome to Space News from the Electric Universe, brought to you by the Thunderbolts project at thunderbolts.info. In the first 5 installments of this series, we outline some of the most compelling evidence that the role of electromagnetism throughout the cosmos is vastly more significant than modern space science has ever entertained. So far, we have explored this question through an examination of the highest energy electromagnetic phenomena at the vastest scales throughout the cosmos. We now move our attention to our own celestial neighborhood and the dynamic interactions between the Sun and all of the bodies which move within its electrical domain. Today, we'll explore why planetary electrical discharges are the 6th of 10 reasons why the universe is electric. Charged planets in the inner solar system. At no time in history have human beings been more dependent on electricity for everyday functioning and survival. On Earth, electricity's significance both for society and in nature seems self-evident. Yet in the space sciences, many strange and outdated notions about Earth's atmospheric and weather phenomena endure, despite an ever-growing wealth of scientific data. It was in the early 20th century that the Norwegian experimentalist Christian Birkeland correctly hypothesized that electric currents from the Sun power the Earth's auroras. For many decades, the scientific mainstream largely rejected the thesis, favoring instead the idea that Earth's magnetosphere is an impenetrable envelope, quote, squeezed by the solar wind to induce auroral activity. Only when satellites detected the magnetic signatures of electric currents in the aurora in 1973 was Birkeland's hypothesis irrefutably validated. Though even today, many scientists still resist the implications of the discovery. In testing his ideas about the Earth-Sun connection, Birkeland built a vacuum chamber and placed a magnetized metal ball called a terrella inside it, representing the Earth. He observed how the terrella behaved in its artificial electrically charged atmosphere. In addition to solving the riddle of Earth's auroras, Birkeland's electrical experiments also uncannily simulated planetary rings and the energetic displays of cometary jets. More than a century after Birkeland's polar expedition to investigate the Northern Lights, mainstream scientists still express surprise or even astonishment when they observe the telltale signs of electrical circuitry connecting the Earth and the Sun. Of course, the Earth is the most well-studied celestial object, and much has been learned about its electrical environment. The space age has brought a much greater understanding of the Earth's upper atmosphere and ionosphere, as well as the inner and outer radiation belts. With greater technological data, the challenges for planetary scientists to explain discovery have only increased. Lightning is the most powerful electrical phenomenon on our world, and near the end of the 20th century, and continuing today, terrestrial lightning has held new surprises for atmospheric scientists. As far back as the 1960s, some airline pilots reported their observations of powerful electrical discharges that appeared to originate above thunderclouds, reaching towards space. It wasn't until the early 1990s that scientists were able to verify the phenomenon definitely exists, including blue jets seen exploding from thunderclouds, and enormous red sprites even higher in the upper atmosphere. Scientists today acknowledge that the phenomenon remains mysterious. But amazingly, above clouds lightning was in fact predicted nearly a century ago. In the 1920s, the Scottish physicist C.T.R. Wilson predicted the existence of brief flashes of light above large thunderstorms. On the cause of the phenomena, an important clue was uncovered in 2001. A physicist named Professor Edgar Bering flew a high-altitude balloon above a thunderstorm. He made the unexpected discovery that when lightning strikes occur above and below the clouds, the electrical charge was already present and did not take time to build up between lightning strikes. This contradicts the standard notion that lightning is a generator of the clear air electric field, measured at about 100 volts per meter between the Earth and a clear sky. Bering wrote on his findings that sprites and jets, quote, may be an essential element of the Earth's global electrical circuit. However, physicist Wal Thornhill notes of the standard scientific literature on our planet's, quote, global electrical circuit. As big as the term global sounds, the circuit is too restricted. It is a circuit that assumes heat-driven convection in clouds is the global electricity generator. This generator mysteriously separates electric charge in storm clouds to power worldwide currents. However, the circuit is unplugged. It is isolated from electrical connection with anything else in the universe. Such a lack of a holistic or cosmic scale vision is a fundamental constraint on theorists. In the electric universe, the ultimate circuitry driving atmospheric and weather phenomena is the electric current system connecting planets and the sun. In recent years, it has become increasingly evident that the sun affects our own planet's atmosphere and weather in ways that standard theorists had never imagined. In 2014, we reported on the discovery that charged particles from the sun appear linked to increased lightning on Earth. According to an article on the Institute of Physics website, a team of scientists, quote, found a substantial and significant increase in lightning rates across Europe for up to 40 days after the arrival of high-speed solar winds. And indeed, the ramifications of the confirmation of Christian Birkeland's thesis on the Earth's auroras become more and more evident with each new discovery. Earlier this year, the ESA Swarm mission reported the groundbreaking discovery of, quote, supersonic plasma jets high up in Earth's atmosphere, which can push temperatures up to 10,000 degrees Celsius. A Phys.org report on the discovery stated, the theory that there are huge electric currents, powered by solar wind and guided through the ionosphere by Earth's magnetic field, was postulated more than a century ago by Norwegian scientist Christian Birkeland. While much is known about these current systems, recent observations have revealed that they are associated with large electrical fields. The existence of Birkeland currents in space is now confirmed by scientific discovery. But of course, many differences remain between the standard interpretation and predictions and those of the electric universe. The notion that celestial objects cannot have an excess of charge is a guiding principle of astronomy. Yet as Thunderbolts colleague Dr. Michael Claridge explained in his 2014 presentation, Earth's Electric Environment, overall charge neutrality is not really the point. A battery that you hold in your hand has no overall charge on it. But the point is that we've separated the charge in it so it can do work. And as we will see as we continue, charge exchange between celestial bodies, seen most dramatically between the sun and the planets in its domain, is the most promising explanation for many spectacular atmospheric phenomena that remain unexplained in standard astronomy. As we turn our attention to our planetary neighbors, we see the need for a new understanding of all forms of lightning on our own world. When the then Soviet Union's Venera probes touched down on the planet Venus more than half a century ago, they recorded surprising evidence of lightning that was much more frequent and powerful than earthly lightning. Yet Venus has no water clouds, which means that the electrical discharges traverse directly from the ionosphere to the ground. In a scientific paper on the Venera discoveries, planetary scientist Professor Donald Hunton wrote, the indications are that lightning is likely to occur in any substantial planetary atmosphere. Theories of electrification are faced with the need to explain its presence under a wide variety of circumstances and atmospheric conditions. The so-called strange magnetic ropes detected in Venus's atmosphere are evidence of its electrical connection to the sun, which is more direct than the Earth's. The mysterious rope's twisted filamentary structure reveals the electric currents required to sustain the detected magnetism. Incoming electrical currents open the doorway to explain many mysterious atmospheric and weather phenomena on Venus. In 2006, the ESA's Venus Express satellite recorded the astonishing images of a twin cyclone above Venus's south pole. For reasons that still elude planetary scientists, the cyclone structure constantly evolves, and it appears to be a permanent fixture at the South Pole. However, we see not the first instance when science discovery has confirmed a seemingly preposterous prediction of the electric universe theory. In 2005, when scientists using the Keck Observatory discovered a warm vortex at the south pole of Saturn, Thornhill made a prediction that could only seem preposterous from a conventional viewpoint. He wrote, "The electric universe predicts, experimentum crucis, that both poles should be hot, not one hot and the other cold." In 2008, NASA's Cassini scientists were astonished to discover a mysterious hotspot at Saturn's North Pole. This was astonishing because the freezing pole had been deprived of sunlight for over 12 years. On Venus, twin tornadoes have been observed at both poles. This is important because the electric universe states that the sun's electrical input generally occurs at the poles of planets, which we usually see in the form of auroras. As we see, the constantly shifting structure of the south polar vortex seems strikingly reminiscent of the spiral galaxy's forms, reproduced by plasma scientist Dr. Anthony Peratt's simulations of two current filaments interacting in a plasma. In the electric universe, the incoming electrical currents are also the driver of Venus's mysterious superfast winds, which are difficult for conventional meteorology to explain. Cloud movements show a 4-day rotation period of the upper atmosphere at the equator, which declines to 2 days toward the poles. Within the framework of standard theory, no force is present to drive the upper winds around the planet at such a speed, since Venus itself has a rotational period of 243 days retrograde, and the planet's lower winds are exceptionally sluggish. Since the planet is the same temperature overall, there is no temperature gradient to drive these winds either. In recent years, it was reported that the superfast winds of Venus have actually been steadily accelerating for a decade. This is explained through analogy to the simplest electrical motor called a Faraday disk motor. The Faraday disk motor requires only a magnetic field and a disk conductor, or something symmetrical. When a current is directed inward to the poles of the object and out at the equator, it will cause the object to rotate. We note that while the Venusian winds were found to be accelerating, scientists found that the planet's rotation was mysteriously slowing down. In the electric universe theory as developed by Wall Thornhill, the deposition or extraction of charge from an object will change its mass, and therefore its rotation rate, which has been observed on Earth in small changes of the Earth's rotation, called glitches, when we receive a large blast of charged particles from the Sun. On Venus, both the accelerating winds and the planet's slowing rotation could be due to a variation in the incoming electrical current flow. As we turn our attention to Mars, mysterious wind and atmospheric phenomena again point to the planet's dynamic interactions with its electrical space environment. Mars has an atmosphere only around 0.5% as dense as Earth's, so it has been a puzzle for decades why powerful dust storms sometimes encompass the entire planet. How is the dust removed from the soil and accelerated into massive clouds, sometimes up to hundreds of miles per hour in the near vacuum of the Martian atmosphere? Adding to the mystery, when the most dramatic dust storm ever seen on the planet occurred, it involved packed congregations of dust devils, a completely unexpected feature in standard meteorology. In conventional theory, an atmospheric vortex requires a vastly larger circulation of wind than what is clearly seen in edge-on pictures of storm fronts on Mars. Electrically speaking, what produces a global Martian dust storm and other tremendous dust-raising events on the red planet? To begin to get an idea, let us consider the dust devils seen in association with the global storms. The so-called dust devils on Mars are so enormous and energetic, they routinely dwarf earthly tornadoes. A NASA press release describes a typical Martian dust devil as a, quote, monster column towering kilometers high and hundreds of meters wide, 10 times larger than any tornado on Earth. The reason meteorologists call them dust devils instead of tornadoes is because they are not associated with water-laden storm clouds, which don't exist on Mars. The powerful electric fields associated with dust devils, both on Mars and on Earth, are now acknowledged in scientific literature. But meteorologists can only look to solar heating, air convection, and dust particle friction as their cause. The electrical nature of the tornadic dust fountains on Mars may be better understood through an examination of their cousins, waterspouts. A great breakthrough in understanding waterspouts came from the work of Russian plasma physicist V.A. Rantsev-Kartanov. From his investigation, he concluded that these phenomena are the result of a long-lasting discharge current between the plasma networks of a water surface and the electrical charge of the clouds above. Both the rotation and the narrow, coherent, and undulating funnels of waterspouts are thus explained in terms of plasma discharge behavior. All of this relates to the unfounded assumption of planetary scientists that mechanical processes must separate charge wherever they see electrical activity. The electric universe's counter viewpoint on Martian wind and weather is summarized in a 2005 Thunderbolts Picture of the Day article. It states, "Since Mars has no thunderstorms to, quote, charge up its ionosphere, it should present a good case study of the electric universe. The electrical model predicts that the Martian ionosphere is indeed charged, and it posits no isolated dynamo to, quote, separate charge. On Mars, electrical effects will reach directly from the ionosphere to the surface without the ameliorating leakage via storm clouds that we see on Earth. Unlike radiant energy from the sun, electrical energy can accumulate in the planetary capacitor for some time, with the potential for planet-altering events when the atmosphere finally breaks down and massive discharge activity is initiated." The Thunderbolts article also offered the following prediction. The intensity and number of dust devils will be affected by solar outbursts and the planet's elliptical orbit. In fact, in recent years, the electrical interpretation of dramatic Martian dust-raising events has been stunningly confirmed. In 2012, amateur astronomers first spotted seemingly inexplicable plumes rising hundreds of kilometers above the surface of Mars. In 2016, scientists using the Mars Express spacecraft discovered something completely unexpected to planetary scientists. A coronal mass ejection hit Mars immediately before the plume was first spotted. The leader of a team of scientists said of the discovery, "It's very surprising that was affecting Mars right before the plume was first observed." And of course, the electrical nature of the event seems undeniable. A 2016 New Scientist report states, "One possibility is that plasma could be interacting with ice grains or dust lower down in the atmosphere and electrically charging them, boosting them higher, but it's not clear how the effect would be big." An analog to the Martian dust-raising events might be the electrostatic dust storms that are now known to occur on the Moon when it encounters the Earth's magnetotail once a month. We also note that when the largest global dust storm on Mars began in 2001, Mars had reached opposition and was the closest it had been to Earth in about 12 years. As noted at the beginning of this video, planetary scientists are only now recognizing the pervasive electric current systems on our own planet, which were postulated more than a century ago by Christian Birkeland. Of course, on Mars, far less is known, but NASA's MAVEN mission has provided important new data and insights. One of many surprising findings was characterized as follows in a 2015 NASA press release. NASA's MAVEN spacecraft has observed two unexpected phenomena in the Martian atmosphere: an unexplained high-altitude dust cloud and aurora that reaches deep into the Martian atmosphere. The presence of the dust at orbital altitudes from about 93 miles to 190 miles above the surface was not predicted. As mission scientist Layla Anderson stated, "If the dust originates from the atmosphere, this suggests we are missing some fundamental process in the Martian atmosphere." Also surprising to MAVEN scientists was the discovery of a highly energetic glowing aurora that reaches shockingly deep into the Martian atmosphere. As one team member stated, "What's especially surprising about the aurora we saw is how deep in the atmosphere it occurs, much deeper than at Earth or elsewhere on Mars. The electrons producing it must be energetic." As the NASA press release explains, MAVEN's Solar Energetic Particle instrument detected a huge surge in energetic electrons at the onset of the aurora. Today, within the electric universe community, experimental research such as that which Birkeland pioneered continues. Through simple experiments with electric fields, we see the routine replication of many atmospheric, weather, and geological phenomena. These experimental analogs place the endless, surprising space discoveries in an entirely new light and emphasize the desperate need for a new perspective in planetary science, one which recognizes charge exchange between celestial bodies. In our next installment of this series, we will turn our attention to the gas giants in the outer solar system, whose dynamic electrical environments offer further testimony that the universe is electric. For continuous updates on space news from the electric universe, stay tuned to thunderbolts.info.